Hello everybody and welcome to my first update video. I've made a bunch of quite significant updates to the game in the last month, and I think it would be cool to have a little bit of a video summary where I'm going over all the things that are new, all the things that have been improved with these updates, and the big one of them is the Diplomania update from now around 10 days ago, which has overhauled the game's entire diplomacy system and introduced this nice new main menu background with the waving flags. I hope you enjoy it. I really like it. I think it's much more aesthetic than just the static image that used to be there before. Alright, so let's just go straight into the game, and first of all, you see that this is not the 2024 setup anymore. The default setup has been switched to 1700, and that is because I think for new players it is easier to get used to the game in a bit of a more historical setting, because now that you have all these different diplomatic options and all these different relations that the countries have to with each other, and in the modern age almost every country is part of some, if not multiple, international institutions, it is easier to learn how the game works in one of the past scenarios. So I've changed the default starting scenario in 1700 into the 1700 one. Of course, you can always still change back and go to the menu, click new game, and just click 2024, confirm that, and then it will just load up the modern day scenario. And there already dropped the keyword for the perhaps biggest change to the game: institutions. And this would have been a perfect transition to the next topic, but I want to quickly mention something before I actually talk about the institutions themselves, and that is the international relations. So in the previous versions of Konkwest, you had three types of international relations. You had neutral, which is the default relation; friend, which means you can't attack each other; and enemy. So it was very, well, not binary because it's three, but like technically a ternary relations system. And that has been upgraded significantly. So now that with this update out, you will have a diplomatic relation to each other country in the world. So if we look at a relatively neutral country, let's pick Egypt, for example, you will see that if we select Egypt here in the diplomatic map mode, the other countries, of course, get colored based on how much Egypt likes them. Now we can see, if we zoom in, that it says for each of these countries the relation. Like this says Northern Sudan here because this is the place of Northern Sudan, but the relation is for the entire country. Friendly 95, and to East Libya neutral 50. This is actually not quite ideal because in real life Egypt is supporting East Libya more than West Libya, but West Libya is part of the African Union, Egypt is too, so it's all very convoluted. It's hard to model the real political circumstances that we have in our time, but with more and more updates I'm trying to get closer and closer to that point. So anyways, you will now have diplomatic relations to each other countries, and your starting relation will be impacted by who your country's historical friends are and who are other members of the same diplomatic institutions that you are part of. And Egypt, for example, is part of the African Union, so they have better relations than neutral. Like this is the neutral color over here, and you see most of Africa has a bit better relations with Egypt than neutral because they're also part of the African Union. And then, for example, these countries over here, which are very friendly, are part of the Arab League as well, just like Egypt. And then, for example, South Africa and Nigeria, they are not part of the Arab League, but Egypt likes them a bit more because they don't have a traditional language, so they are sort of neutral in the whole language game that's going on in the background. And neutral is always better than working against you. So already with that, the complexity of international relations has increased a lot. But that is only the complexity of the system. For you as the player, it is still relatively simple. So let's quickly play as Egypt. Then we can go to East Libya, for example, and select country East Libya here. And then if we scroll down, we can see we have just two very simple buttons. Since we are not at war with East Libya, we can improve our relations. And we can also choose to damage our relations if we have some reason to want to do that. Both of these cost power points. Not a lot, as you can see. We have 674, and this only costs 15 or 5. Improving relations is not instant. It's going to send a diplomatic request to East Libya, and then next turn, if they accept it, then the relation actually improves. That also means that the improvement is quite significant if they do accept it. I'm not actually going to want to play as Egypt right now. So I'm going to quickly leave that country again. And instead show you the institutions. And we can start with the institutions in the current world. And we see here there's the new institutions map mode. And each institution sort of picks a color from one of its member states, and then all countries that are part of that institution get that color. And if a country is part of multiple institutions, then it gets a blend of all the institution colors of the institutions that it's part of. So if countries have similar colors, doesn't mean that they are entirely in the same institutions, but they probably have a bunch of them in common. So you see, for example, that Europe over here is very bluish with a bit of red and purple mixed in. And Africa, of course, very yellow and greenish, because yellow here is the African Union, and I think the blue comes from the European Union, as well as NATO probably also is blue. And then we have the OECD, which is red, and that makes like Turkey a bit more red because they're part of the OECD but not of the EU. And we have a bunch of other international organizations in Asia. I'm not going to get too much into detail here because I am planning to also follow up this video with a video on the individual scenarios and explaining some historical context and current geopolitics that go into the current state of the game. But just so you know, there's, for example, also BRICS, which has been in the news quite often, and there we have like China, Iran, India. You know, it looks like they are not in the same institution, but if you zoom in, you can see that it says BIM and BRI here. BRI is short for BRICS, just like here with China. Then if we actually click on India, we can see that they're in BIMSTEC and in BRICS. And for example, like Nepal is also in BIMSTEC. And you see it has like an orange color. So India has a blend of both this orange and the green color. Okay, so now you know about the institutions map mode, and you know that there's a lot of the different institutions. Now let me show you what these institutions can actually do and how it looks. So let's go with one of the most well-known institutions first, the European Union. So if we click on any member state of the European Union, we can now see in the country tab the institutions, and there we see European Union. Alternatively, we can also click this new button and then just select European Union from the list, and that will do the same as if we click this button here. And then we get to the EU's institutions screen. The EU's institutions screen tells you first who are the member states, then what aspects does this institution have, and the aspects are really important because they determine what type of effect this group has on the game, this institution has on the game. Yeah. So first of all, it's an association, which means that the member states get a higher relations equilibrium with each other, which means that if nothing special happens, their relations are better than if they weren't in this institution. Then it's also a political union. This is a very powerful institution aspect which allows the member states to vote to unite into a new country. If you start a new institution, this is very difficult to get to. But the European Union already starts with it. Then it's also an alliance, so members automatically join each other's defensive wars. So that means if I'm a member state and I attack a non-member state, that's gonna be on my own. But if a non-member state attacks me, then all the other member states will try to, will also go to war with the country that attacked me as a member state. Then it's also has the internal peace aspect, which means you can't attack other member states. And the internal peace aspect is actually required to have the alliance. And then military access is quite the interesting one. It allows you to go through the other member states' territory and conquer or colonize places that you couldn't access if you could just access your own territory. But you can use basically just move your army, your colonizers, your explorers through the other member states' lands. Again, the military access also requires internal peace. Without internal peace, you can't have military access. And then lastly, it shows you the institution's decision system. So it is a democratic power-based decision system. There's a bunch of different ones in the game. Not going to go too much into detail because it's also always explained down below how they work. Basically, when the institution has a decision, it will be listed here below, where currently it says there are no decisions. And then there's going to be a little box here which says what the decision is about. So, for example, if you want to admit, say, Norway as a new member state, that would be a decision. And then the member states will have like votes, like these countries are in favor, these countries are against. And in this particular decision system, the countries will have more votes if they are more powerful and less votes if they are less powerful. Okay, let's switch back to the 1700 scenario so I can show you something about that. So here we see that in the 1700 scenario there are a lot fewer institutions to begin with. So all of the white countries aren't members in any institutions. And then we have only 3 institutions in Europe. We have the Grand Alliance, which has the Netherlands, Spain, some of the little German countries, Austria and Prussia, and Scotland, and England. And then we have the Holy Roman Empire, which has, well, Germany and Savoy. And then we have the Anglo-Portuguese alliance with Portugal and England. All of these are historically part of this era. So if you want to play with the new alliances right from the start, you can pick one of these countries that are already members in them. If you don't want to start playing with the institutions, you can just pick a country that is, well, not right there, such as, well, any country in Asia pretty much, or Africa. There's a lot of countries in Africa. There's not that many countries in America at the time because it's currently mostly colonized by Spain and Portugal, and then also France and England. However, there are still a bunch of countries here in North America where the colonizers haven't yet established their power. So in order to show you how the institution decisions work, let's actually play as a member state of the Holy Roman Empire. Let's go with Bavaria, because Bavaria is pretty much right in the middle. We look at the diplomatic mode for Bavaria. We see this area is striped white. That means we have internal peace. So we don't have to worry too much about going to war with anyone right at the start. Now, if we have a look at the institution screen, now there's some buttons here, because now we are playing as a member state. We can choose to leave the institution, which will take one turn and then we are out. Or we can initiate a vote, and that will basically start a new decision to be voted on in this institution. The Holy Roman Empire has a little bit fewer aspects than the EU, but all of them I have already explained how they work. So just skip back to the part about the European Union if you want to learn about these aspects. Now, what can we do since we are a member state? Now, we can add an aspect to the institution, basically making the institution more powerful and maybe more helpful for us. So we could, for example, say, hey, let's make an alliance, and I think I'm actually going to propose that. And you see it will be planned here for next turn. In the Holy Roman Empire, Bavaria initiates a decision, add new aspect, alliance. And I'll just go back to the Holy Roman Empire and see what else we can do. We can abolish an aspect, so if we think, okay, yeah, maybe we don't want the association, we can click that, and then it will be proposed that we get rid of that. We can change the decision system. And here, since we aren't one of the more powerful members, it would be better for us if instead of democratic power-based, we would have the democratic membership-based system, where each member has one vote. So let's also propose that. Then we can expel a member, so if we don't like one of the member states, we can try and kick them out. Of course, if there is a vote to expel your own country, you cannot vote on that, even if you otherwise would have votes. And then lastly, we can vote to disband the institution. Not really a reason for us to do that right now, unless we wanted to attack our direct neighbors, which could actually be quite useful for us, because we could easily get a bunch of territory here in Germany. But a bunch of these countries are also part of the Grand Alliance, and we are not. So I think for us it's probably best as Bavaria to first stay in the Holy Roman Empire. Now we still have a bunch of power left, so I'm going to just develop a little bit of industry here in Bavaria. And then that's my turn. Let's see what happens. Okay, a bunch of things happened, especially over in the east. Our industry has been built. And if we now check the Holy Roman Empire screen, we see now that there's these two decisions here that we proposed, and we are already voting in favor because we proposed them. And then over the next couple turns, the other member states will vote on them too. Voting ends in 3 turns, as you can see. If we decided, oh, actually, we changed our mind, we don't want this anymore, we can click this button, or click it again to not plan to do the opposite. And if another country proposes something, then we can also vote on this here, and we will have a vote against and a vote in favor button here. Since we're already voting in favor, we can't vote in favor again. Okay, and we see here a bunch of countries voted with us for the alliance, a bunch of countries voted against. There is, I think there's more member states than have voted so far, so probably some more countries will vote. This is not yet decided, but it's also pretty close, but we are winning this one, and this one we are winning by far, as you can see. Of course, Austria and Prussia, who are the most powerful member states, they don't want to get rid of the power-based democratic system. But all of the smaller member states are voting with us. And as you can see, if you have a bunch of smaller member states, you can overpower the stronger states if you vote together. So to demonstrate another mechanic, we now can see that Scotland has invaded this part here in northern Germany, and we don't like Scotland because they did that, apparently. If we click on Scotland, we can see their diplomacy, and we see that they are actually allied with Spain, England, West Germany, and the east here as well, so probably not ideal to attack them. If we look at Mecklenburg, Mecklenburg is now at war with England and Spain because they attacked Scotland in Scotland. Okay, I was going to demonstrate how useful the military access is going to be, but I don't actually want to go to war with Spain, Portugal, and everyone. Let's quickly have a look around who is not part of that group. Looks like Savoy is not part of that group. And since we have military access through all this white striped area, we can actually attack Savoy. Or we could attack Venice. And I think that is quite perfect because Venice right now only has one place. Which means it's easy to grab this. And as you can see, before this update you would not be able to do this because you wouldn't be able to get through here, but now you have military access. Okay, so as you can see, it worked. We took over Venice. As you can also see, Genoa really did not like that we took out their neighbor, and Spain also doesn't like us anymore, probably for a different reason. But it might be a good idea to sort of try and improve our relation to Spain. Let's also check if something happened in the HRE. Nope, everything as it stands. The votes shares themselves changed a little bit, but that's probably just because the member states' power changed. And we can also see here that Mecklenburg is doing a little bit of an invasion of England. Oh, that's interesting. So okay, so we get this notification because the vote has ended, and the Holy Roman Empire says, yes, we do this, we implement switching to the democratic power system. The Pope has started a war against us, and we also have an alliance now. Unfortunately, we didn't get the alliance in the previous turn, because otherwise the alliance would have defended us. Now we have to fight the Pope on our own. But if we survive this war against the Papal States, then we should win most of our soon coming conflicts, I believe. Spain very improve their relations. Yes, I agree, Spain, we should do this. Well, so unfortunately we haven't actually won this because the Pope took their turn before us. I mean, it was a bit of a risky maneuver trying to attack central Italy here. I tried to make it quick, failed. Well, it happens, as you can say. Yeah, as a reminder, Mecklenburg attacked the Grand Alliance, so they are at war with England and Spain. They are not at war with Austria and Prussia and so on, who are also part of the Grand Alliance, because they are also part of the Holy Roman Empire. They can't attack them. So, if you attack someone and you have allies who are also allies of your enemy, then only the allies that are exclusively allied to your enemy will have to defend them. And then I will go over the changes to the different scenarios that were made to make them more historical in another video, to show the different individual scenarios, just so that this doesn't become too long and that it becomes easily watchable. Okay, yeah, there were netcode improvements, bunch of different bug fixes. Bug fixes, you can read all about them on the Steam page or on the Discord server. Links are down in the video description, so check those out if you're interested in all of the details. Yeah, this is probably important. Another thing about the institutions, if we are, let's pick a country that isn't at war, Saxony. If we are Saxony and we think, hey, Poland, Lithuania would be really cool if they would be part of our institution, we can click on Poland, Lithuania, and then we can invite them to join the Holy Roman Empire. And wait a turn. And now we are going to be Poland, Lithuania for demonstration purposes. Now we get a diplomatic request, and if we accept this, then we will apply to join the Holy Roman Empire, and then they can vote to let us in or not. If we say no, then that just damages our relation to Saxony a little bit. So that's another way to work with the new institution mechanic. Last but not least, a few new places have been added to the game over in this region. And we see that now Indonesia has a place Aceh over here, which was previously just part of the Sumatra place. Singapore has been added to the game, both as a country and as its own place, and the same with Brunei, which is now over here on Borneo. As you can also see in this region, is that regions which usually were limited to one region per land area can now stretch across water. So you see that Indonesia now has all of their places in one big Indonesia region, where before each island had its own region. And same here with Malaysia, where even the name of the country is now in the water because, well, the water is the middle of the country. So this should make it a lot less tedious to manage your individual regions, because you don't need for every little island its own region anymore. Okay, so that was it. That is the updates 1.003 until updates 1.0041. Again, if you want details, click the link in the video description to read more. And I wish you a lot of fun conquering the world, and I hope to see your conquest soon. Join the Discord community for finding multiplayer players or asking me questions. I'm always up to answer your stuff when I'm not asleep. Have a good day.